Bucks. It's good to see you in person.
G'day, Kane. Where were you last night? I'm at the Port Adelaide Best and Fairest. Where were you? I saw your brother from a distance.
I was going to go along. My youngest son, Sonny, loves to go along to all of those and lucky enough to be invited every year. But he's gone away to my parents-in-law's shack, so he wasn't there, so I didn't want to go along solo. So I cancelled the invite. How was it?
Yeah, it was really well done. It was interesting to sit there and absorb and let it wash over you. Another or a different club's BNF. It's been 31 years since I was at the Port Adelaide Footy Club at the 92 BNF, and things have changed a little bit. I don't know how that happens, but it was over for Jeff Motley's memorial at Alberton yesterday morning, and it was done really well by a club that clearly values its heritage, its history, the people that have helped form it and have been so successful over such a long period of time in the SANFL competition in the Australian football landscape. And Mott's was an absolute giant in that. 10 grand finals, 9 premierships, 250 odd games, a McGarry medal in 64. Captain coached Port Adelaide to a premiership as a 24-year-old. In the shadow of Foss Williams, who moved on for a period, lost a couple of prelims and then got sacked. So it was a ruthless club, a ruthless industry, and success was expected. But Motts was one of the guys that brought it.
And as a prominent player agent as well, in his time, and also, the role clearly as a father that he's played in Peter's life, but no one has been through as much adversity, or certainly the significant adversity that they went through, in his role in helping Peter get through that and through adult life after the tragic accident as well. Bucks, can you speak to that a little bit?
Well, we all go through hardship in life. It's inevitable. That's what life is about. It's about rolling with the punches, dealing with the times you get that you cop it on the chin when you don't expect it, where your legs get taken out from under you, and what do you do about it? And some of those things are more tragic than others, but they're equally significant. And when a son, when one of your sons, and Geof has 2 sons, Brett and Peter, and a daughter, Juanita, when that happens to you, I can only imagine how that feels and how you handle that. But Geof faced that the way that he faced the rest of his life, and that is, he was pragmatic. What is the next steps? How do I absorb this pain and my own hurt and help other people, be strong for other people? And that's what he seemed like. He became quite a stout guy. He was 5'10" when he was younger. He became quite a stout guy, a big fella, broad shoulders, chiseled chin, barrel chest. He carried so much for so many people over so long. I get the sense that he just wandered through this world trying to help as many people as he could for as long as he could. And what a great legacy to leave. He just made people's lives better. And yes, my association with him was fleeting through a player-manager type setup, and he didn't do it for a lot of people. He picked the people that he wanted to help. And I feel forever grateful that I was one that he was happy to assist.
Lovely reflection. Saw that you spoke as well, and from what I saw on the news, spoke incredibly well as always. Let's move on to less serious matters. You're in the room at Port Adelaide's Best and Fairest. Their exit of the season was disappointing.
Yep.
How did they address that?
It was addressed in a very Port Adelaide way. Speaking openly, I think that the biggest millstone around Port Adelaide's neck is its expectation that it's going to win a flag every year. I just spoke with Bix over the road on his program in South Australia and reflected how long it's 25 years since the Crows won one in 98. So they went back to back, and this guy's a premiership captain sitting in front of me. You got to make the most. And Adelaide have only been in one grand final in 2017. Since then, they're not hard. They're not easy to get. They're hard to get to, and they're even harder to win. It's not that we're not Port Adelaide, the Port Adelaide Power. I'm playing in the same competition that the Port Adelaide Magpies are playing. That's not to denigrate the SANFL, but times change, generation changes. The pointy end of everything is harder, and it's hard to win a flag. So I think the expectation is the millstone around Port Adelaide's neck, and I think generationally young players, they don't cope with that expectation the way it doesn't work the same way as it might have 20 years ago or 30 or 40 years ago. There's that hardness is not what necessarily brings you success. It's actually the enjoyment and the drive to succeed and to be your best and to be your best together and to make the most of your opportunities as they come. That real old school hardness and high expectation, I think that's more debilitating than it is inspiring.
Yeah. And when
that was still there a little bit. Not
so that
like
was
just
there,
as an observer. That was there a little bit. So the biggest challenge for sides that have had, generational success, and I've felt this at Collingwood at times, is actually to let that go, because that means nothing when you move into the present moment and into the near future. So it is a challenge for Ken, and clearly his position is speculated on heavily, but and for the leadership of the club. We
are in the grips of trade period. It's a frenzy for those that invest themselves in it. Bucks day one yesterday, and some things are happening. As a coach, how did you? I mean, you're involved in a famous period as well, which was a significant turning point for the Collingwood Football Club, and you became the face of that almost. But how did you address the trade period when you were coaching?
Well, you can only deal with it. You don't deal with it person by person, player by player, because there are so many different circumstances that occur, and things change. Nothing stays the same. So there's times when we handled it well, and there's times when we handled it poorly. There was times when circumstances were in your favour, and there were times when they weren't. What I would say is, from the outside in, Graham Wright has always been one of the best operators at this time of year.
Why?
I think that he is a great relationship builder. I think he's honest. I think he's built trust through the management. And I think that's where, so for instance, something like Lachie Schultz, I think that's done initially with a I don't know who Lachie Schultz's management is. I should know that, but I dare say that Righty has great relationships with the managers, because in the end, the club can do, there can be win-wins. There's always a loser, but there can be win-wins. So there's three parties in every trade. There's the two clubs, and then there's a player. The player wants to better his circumstances. He wants to be a part of success. He wants to find out how good he can be. He wants to get paid. They're the three things that they want. That's what you're driven to at different levels for different people. The two clubs, they want to get either something back that they can do something with and be better, or they want to keep this player because they think that he's someone that we can't lose. Another club, Collingwood in this instance, they're trying to get a player to make them better, and they won't want to give away too much. So in the end, there's an economy to it, but that's why players are driving trades more and more, and the managers therefore become even more influential for AFL clubs. And the point of contact at AFL clubs is generally the list manager for the managers.
So this one came out of the blue yesterday. I rate him highly as a player. You can see exactly how Lachie Schultz this is going to fit into Collingwood's structure, the defensive pressure that he brings, his ability to score. He's tough, he's competitive, he plays to a structure that is important. He's contracted for one more year at the Dockers. Feels like you don't know what you've got until it's gone. I'm not sure Fremantle have fully paid him the respect that he deserves for the role that he plays, be that via a contract or what he's paid, the fact that he was on the rookie list for a significant period of time. Now they're going, well, Collingwood want him. We don't want to lose him either, but there might be some other circumstances surrounding this. Let's have a listen to Fremantle's Peter Bell, who spoke on Radio 6PR this morning, addressing this trade request.
We weren't expecting the request from Lachie. That's fair to say. We're aware of some circumstances, as we are with all our players, that are in the background, and I guess some circumstances have arisen where Lachie's keen to explore a return home to Victoria. Through those discussions, we of course have reminded Lachie that while we understand those circumstances, the fact that he's a contracted player, a much loved player, and a valued player, may mean that there's every possibility that he plays for us next year and sees out his contract at least.
So as a free agent at the end of next year, if he stayed at Fremantle, he'll be 26 years of age. There would be a significant market for him, and the Dockers would be in the lap of the gods, I guess, in terms of what that compensation pick would be. Since 2017, Bucks, Freo have lost with, I guess, a little asterisk next to Schultz and Henry because they both want to go but haven't gone yet. Blake Acres, Griffin Logue, Darcy Tucker, Rory Lobb, Lloyd Meek, Adam Chera, Jesse Hogan, Brad Hill, Ed Langdon, Lachie Neale, Lachie Weller, Harley Ballock, Hayden Crozier since 2017. They lose a lot. Should they make a stand here and keep him to his contract?
Well, I find the narrative is always interesting when you say they've lost those. So some of those players they were happy to give away, and we don't know what came back.
Yep.
And they have been. 2 years ago they were top four. They finished top four in the league. So they've underperformed this year in particular. I would have thought. So I think Schultz he seems to me like a Tay Adams type heart and soul player. If I look from the outside in, and he's the type of player that you want with the attitude that you want to build a team around. I don't know where he sits in terms of leadership.
Well, not only that, and I know just sitting with you in all Australian meetings.
Who was in those discussions?
You're big on scoreboard impact.
Yep.
Aren't you? That's fair to say.
Well, it's not just, so we were trying to assess Brian Myers' impact, for instance, against a Charlie Cameron. Different roles, but in the end, Lachie Schultz's numbers stacked right up in that vein, didn't they?
Yeah, he did, and so he's won at Fremantle for scoreboard impact last year. He's kicked more goals at Fremantle in the last 4 years than anyone else.
The thing that strikes me with him is he's in the spot in where he's so reliable and disciplined. He won't leave his assignment to go and feather his nest. He's a selfless player.
Yes. Yeah.
And he's always been a selfless player now. And so when the ball movement's right and when the field position's good, he can fill his cup. But when the defensive work needs to be done, he's doing that flat out. So I think, and as you said, he seems like I think he'll be an even better player in a great side. Now, Fremantle potentially have that aspiration and could be that. I would, if I'm coaching Lachie Schultz, I still think that he's the type of character that would understand that, no, we value you and we want you to stay. I don't think that, it doesn't seem like that's a broken relationship.
He wouldn't turn his toes up, no.
No, it's not a broken, and it's not, but it's a wish. It's like I've been, a side has come for me, they've spoken through my management, they've courted me over a period of time, and this happens under the ether. We don't actually realise all of it, because not all of it comes to fruition either. But, and he's seen the romanticism of Collingwood's situation, and he wants to be a part of that. Well, you see what happens in September. Yeah. You want to be a part of that. So it'll be a challenge for Fremantle, but and they've got a choice to make, as will Lachie. But it doesn't happen very often where a player says, "I'm keen to get out."
And stays. Yeah, I think Fremantle did it with Rory Lobb. I think they made him stay. The Giants did it with Bobby Hill for a year. Geelong did it with Radaglia for a year, but then the next year they leave. And then you're going, okay, we're in the same position as well.
Been corrected here by Trent. It wasn't a top four, but they won 15 games.
Yes.
I think it was 2 years ago.
I think they won 15
they finished
and a half. Yeah.
Fifth, did they? Yeah.
It was pretty close. And then won a final as well, beating the Western Bulldogs. Nathan Buckley is in the house. Bucks, on the other side of this, yesterday we spoke about Stephen May and his comments at the Best and Fairest. I want to know whether you would be happy as his coach, Simon Goodwin, hearing those comments. And also, Tom Mitchell has given an insight on his Ball Magnets podcast about when he knew the time for him to leave Hawthorn was staring him in the face. So we'll hear from Tom Mitchell, we'll hear from Stephen May on the other side of this. And I also want to ask you about Tom Hawkins. Is there any way Tom Hawkins doesn't finish his career at the Cats? I'm saying there is absolutely no way, but Bucks is a little bit more pragmatic in these situations. So we'll ask him about that next. Nathan Buckley's in the house. It's mornings. Kane Cornes in for Jared.
You know, I've had a few fans come up to me and say, I really appreciate and respect how much you hate losing, which is awesome, and I do, because, and I don't want to, talk about it in hindsight, but, we lose to Collingwood and they go on to win the flag, and it hurts watching that, because we're a better team than them. We should have smoked them, and to sit there on grand final day and watch them, hoist the cup and get the medals, I'm sitting there going, geez, our team's so much better than these guys, and we should have been out there, but we weren't. And I think we got an unbelievable list, we got an unbelievable coaching group, and the hunger is never been hungrier. And, I'm blessed to be a part of this team and looking forward to next year.
And since then, those comments have blown up, Bucks, as you can imagine. He's 31 years of age now, Stephen May. Should he know better than to speak like that as if he's speaking at a pub when he's actually speaking at a best and fairest and the conversation is being recorded?
No, I got not a problem with it at all.
You don't have a problem with what he said?
No, not a problem at all. I mean, we sit here on this side and we say, why don't they give us, why don't they tell us what they really think? And then when someone says what they really think, we criticise, I suppose the deadheadedness of considering where this could possibly go. Every sort of top four team that hasn't ultimately got to the granny or has not won the granny, you don't see sides that make grand finals making comments like that because they've just lost the game. But if you've lost one before, you're looking at it and you're going, what if, what could have been? And there's plenty of little moments that make a lot of difference. And Collingwood won 3 finals by 12 points. So they weren't by and far the best team in the competition. They were in home and away, but in the finals, they weren't by and far the best finals team. They were marginally the best finals team, but they are the premiers for the year. Melbourne had their bona fides. Brisbane did.
No, we
did.
understand that.
But to make that comment, it's nearly like it's an inner sanctum comment that gets on the outside.
Yes.
But we got to. But the context.
I'm saying he's 31.
The context isn't lost. It doesn't matter how old he is.
Should he know better than to? I don't know if he'd had a couple of drinks.
Of course he had.
He was relaxed.
Of course he was.
Well, you got to lose humbly. You got to win humbly. You got to lose humbly. That's not a humble statement to get out there and say we would have smoked Collingwood.
No, but that's saying that we should have, but you didn't.
We could have, should have, would have.
But he's putting it on himself. He's not putting it on themselves. He's not putting it on anyone else. I think we can't listen to a comment without knowing the context. The context is he's at his own BNF, talking to his own people, either the football program or the supporters of the Melbourne Football Club. It's going out to their internet and their supporters. Like, other supporters aren't logging into an opposition BNF, but then we pick it up and it goes forward. The only concern I would have if I'm in that is that there's a loser's mentality of you can't keep making these statements after the fact. But they only won a flag a couple of years ago, yes. And they do have a solid list and a strong list, and they've got a chance to go forward. So he is a 31-year-old. He is a leader, and he's got a chance to now do something about those comments. So how does he handle the off-season? How does he handle coming back to pre-season? And what sort of drive is he going to bring to their next campaign? That's all that matters.
All right, 1300 736 736. What do you reckon? You can send us a text as well. I know a lot of you have had your say on that already. I was interested in this, Bucks, because Tom Morris yesterday has been all over the trade period. He reported yesterday that Tom Hawkins was prepared to play for a rival club if the offer was not right at Geelong. Clearly went on to say his preference was to stay at the Cats. There's complications around the injury and concerns about Geelong's future and what they saw of him. He said he had no reason to think that he would leave. But as we sit here today, he has not re-signed. Then Josh Jenkins went on to say on Trade Radio yesterday he'd spoken to Tom. He said he'd be surprised if he left, but what I can tell you is that he hasn't signed and they're a long way apart in terms of a contract negotiation. Is this just clever play from the Hawkins camp to put the pressure on Geelong and raise the stakes? Because I can't see a world in which Tom Hawkins isn't at Geelong next year.
No, it would be less likely than likely, wouldn't it, that he would leave?
He's 8 games away from Joel Selwood's record.
The cautionary tale for Geelong in this, because they would, at different stages when you become the elder statesman, you've got to understand that you're not going to be making the money that you were making in your heyday, and the cap needs to be managed. The cautionary tale is the Hawthorn dismantling and what happened in the next period of time. So, Jordan Lewis goes, Luke Hodge goes, Birchall goes, Gunston, Mitchell. That Mitchell was the kept on again. Was he the first?
I reckon he was the first, wasn't he? Sam Mitchell.
Well, he stayed around. Oh, sorry, I thought he was talking about Tom Mitchell, but Sam Mitchell. So that's a cautionary tale into Burgon was questioned about it, was it? But he stayed on. I think it's moving from where you are to where you want to be change is hard. Like, especially when you're letting go of a successful era, you're nearly better to let go absolutely rather than try to force people out. And so I think that's the cautionary tale, because it doesn't always. It's not easy to manage from a messaging perspective, because there's a lot of love and affection for premiership players, for players who've brought a lot of joy over their career to a supporter group. And that goodwill can be lost really quickly. So I think that has to be part of the decision for Geelong.
It's a balancing act, isn't it? Like, you're not going to pay, to your point, Tom Hawkins what he was paid 4 or 5 years ago. So then
and Geelong's responsibility is to take their next steps, like to look forward. It's not about looking. They can't do anything about 2023, let alone the longevity of Tom Hawkins' career. And I've got no doubt that the two parties can come to an agreement. You'd hope that there's either an agreement at a figure that you stay, or an agreement that you understand each other's circumstances and you go. The worst case scenario would be that there's a disagreement and there's resentment on departure, and that's what you don't want. And I suppose at the moment it feels like it's in that middle state, and it needs to move one way or another.
All right, we'll hear from Tom Mitchell on the other side of this. Had some strong thoughts on how he was managed at Hawthorn. I want to get Bucks' view on that next after the news headlines. Nathan Buckley is live in the studio here with me, Bucks. This has just come to light this morning. Tom Mitchell, the Collingwood now premiership player, has his own podcast and own business actually called Ball Magnets. Him and a few of the other elite AFL players have it's an education platform, I guess, an app that youngsters can download. They get footy tips. They've also got a podcast. They're doing some good things and give some terrific insights. He's speaking about when he knew his time was up at Hawthorn recently on the Ball Magnets podcast. Let's have a listen.
I wanted to stay at Hawthorn the rest of my career. I was content, happy, but certain things happened. I knew they wanted me out. Some funny things happened. I remember we do the coaches do like a game rating system out of 5 at Hawthorn, which they put on the walls for everyone to see after a game. And round 1 we played North. I was the only player on the team to get rated a 1 out of 5. Round 2, we had a 60-point win against Port Adelaide away. Great team win. I was the only player that got rated a 2 out of 5 or less. Only player in the whole team. The funniest thing about both those games is I think I got Brownlow votes in both games. So I'd played pretty well. But there were some signs there. I'm like, something's going on here. This is weird. There was this one particular meeting I remember, and I don't want to come across as I'm complaining. This is more just how I was feeling and how I felt I was being made to feel. There was a meeting in particular, a game review, and, I chat with Dylan Moore, Finn McGuinness, Will Day, these guys who are some of my good mates still. We call it the Tom Mitchell game review, where that was the signed, sealed, delivered. I knew after that meeting, I'm not coming back here next year. Whatever happens, I'm not coming to Hawthorn. There was a game review where there was something like 5 or so clips of just me. And there was a few that were fair. Like there was one passage of play where as a midfielder, we wanted to stay on the defensive side of the stoppage at forward 50, and I got caught on the other side. I made a mistake. Little things like that. But I got barreled this meeting. All 5 clips, that was the meeting done. And I walked out of that thinking, are you serious? Like this is unprofessional, unfair. From that point onward, I was just, I'm not coming back here.
It's a terrific insight.
It is.
And you don't often get that. And we can all resonate as players and you would be able to as coach. And that's what I want to get your view on the balance of how to highlight players that are not playing within structure or are going against what you have instructed them to do without singling them out. So you get the result as though it comes across as almost a type of bullying on one particular player. How did you assess that? Were you conscious of it? Did you try and balance it up with your other coaches and say, well, hang on, we can't show 4 clips of the one player. We might only have to show 2. How did you do it?
Yeah, well, I think we need to acknowledge that we're hearing
one side
of it,
definitely.
Absolutely one side of it, and through omission, it's a very emotional place to be. You're being judged and criticised and cajoled and encouraged in many different ways. That the coaching tools that are available to you. I dare say that there were probably some conversations through pre-season that year that the coaches were asking for A, B, and C from Tom Mitchell, and in their mind, they didn't get A, B, and C that they discussed and that they needed and that they required for Tom Mitchell to help them in the coaching staff's mind be the best team that they can be. So the feedback, like that public feedback system was something that we went away from.
Okay.
It was like even a tick or a cross. Leading teams were big on it, so even a tick or a cross. But I think the modern generation feels shame far greater than a generation past or 2 generations ago.
Yeah.
And more, there's less. They are generally less resilient, and so they need to be supported. And a lot of the criticism is best done, or any of the challenge more than criticism is best done one-on-one and private, and in an environment where it feels safe to accept and receive that feedback with a relationship that you've built and developed that is built on something solid. So Tom Mitchell obviously didn't feel that. He felt like it wasn't fair. It felt like the relationship wasn't solid enough. Felt like the criticism was over the top, and it sounded like it was too public. So that's good feedback for the coaches as such, but there might have been a method in their madness in that situation as well. It's funny, sliding doors. Like I went to Italy after 2018. We'd just lost the flag. I'm walking through the streets of Lucca and pulling my luggage this way to go to an apartment, and Tom Mitchell and his partner are pulling their luggage going the other way. He just won the Brownlow. We just lost the granny. How you going? Had a quick chat. I don't know. We didn't stop and have a coffee, but with 15, 20 minutes of having a chat, how you going? What's that? And then like 5 years later, he's a premiership player at Collingwood. I'm speaking on the radio. But, you know, life takes you in different directions. But he's got to be you've got to give him a pat on the back. He's made the most of his chances. And as challenging as that might have been at the time, and as much as he wanted to stay at Hawthorn for his whole career, I'm pretty sure he's happy with how it's panned out.
I actually saw the clip this morning on Twitter, and for whatever reason, and I haven't spoken, one of my favourite teammates is Daniel Pearce. Played a bit of footy with him at Port Adelaide. I haven't spoken to him for a while, but every time you see him, it's like things have always been the same. I sent him that clip of Tom Mitchell speaking because he was the first person
Whipping boy.
I thought of, because that was him in those meetings. He was the one that, look at Pearcey. It's early in the game and he's not chasing hard enough. And I felt like he was the one that often got singled out, and it was at times we're a poor club and there's a lot of blame game, and then he lost his place and goes back and plays Sanford, and it felt like it was just that. He was symbolic of everything that was wrong culturally at the club, and reflecting on that, it was unfair at the time.
All of us, we need to acknowledge, all of us have confirmation bias. We have it. We form opinions, and then we look for things that reinforce that opinion, like that. And some people are better at debunking that than others, but we all have it, including coaches. So when you're in an environment where you can't see the best of someone, the leadership of that, you need to make, there's 2 decisions to make. Either you got to challenge your own paradigm so you can see the best of this person to give them a chance in your environment, or if you've already stamped their papers, well, then you've got to let them go. Yeah. So that's what good organisations do, but you've got to be conscious of this confirmation bias that takes place, because whether it's in footy or in life and work, whatever it is, in relationships, the people that you are rubbing shoulders with will have an opinion of who you are, what your strengths are, what you bring to the table, but they'll also have an opinion of what they can't trust you with or what they don't like about you. That's reality. So that's the coaching challenge, is to step out of that confirmation bias and understand that, you don't need to be right all the time. You just need to take in the right information to make the right decisions.
But part of me is conflicted as well. We've got to move on and have a break. I still feel like there's room for that. Like, how have we got to a situation where players are too sensitive not to be able to cop that? Not the Tom Mitchell 5 clips in a row, week after week after week, but surely there's still time in a game review for Ross Lyon to get up there and show 2 clips of Brad Hill, who defensively has been poor, and show it in front of the rest of his teammates. So Windhager sees it and says, okay, well, if it's good enough for Brad Hill, I'm going to learn through what Brad Hill has done. Surely it's
still there. It's still there. But I would say, in my experience, that was the first half of my coaching.
Okay.
Where I thought you were doing everyone a favour by showing and the individual himself, you're doing everyone a favour by showing the difference between when it was done and when it was not, and what the damage that not doing it was, what the effect was. But the net impact, the possible positives that come from that were far overwhelmed by the net negative. And that is on confidence, on relationship, on positivity, on going for, and even if he's a mate of yours, like as Tom was saying, so Finn McGuinness, we call it the Tom Mitchell meeting. Yeah. So it's obviously been a conversation that's taken place with 3, 4, or 5 other players. Geez, that was not right. That was not accurate. That was not fair. So now it's not just the coaching group and one player. It's another 5 or 6 of them that have got care and support for their mate that doesn't believe that the message that came across was done appropriately or accurately. So you've got to weigh that up. But yes, there is room for it, but mostly it's a man-to-man conversation. And if you can't respond to that, you're not going to respond to public. Public humiliation's not the answer.